there's such a strong relationship with tribal nations and the law. And this kind of almost codifies that.
Well, I'm glad you think that. I mean, I know there's a long history in our country with the Iroquois and other tribes and the legal systems they set up, and I hope to continue that tradition.
What do you think? How will you tell us about your role and what you'll be doing in that job?
Well, the American Bar Association is the largest voluntary bar association in the United States, and it has 4 goals, and those are going to be my touchstones during my year. One is to serve our members. We help lawyers become better lawyers. We advance the rule of law, and many people may not know, but we actually run programs promoting democracy and rule of law issues in over 60 countries, including, of course, promoting the rule of law in the United States, which is much needed now. And third is to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. And of course, that's a passion of mine, and hope to continue all the good work that the ABA has been involved with.
And if you look at the judiciary and Article 3 judges, there's been a big bump in the last couple of years, but it's still way below any kind of representation.
Oh, for Native Americans, right. Yes, I know, because for a long time, Diane Humetua was the first Native American woman in the history of our country to be a federal judge. We have gotten several more through the Biden administration, which is fabulous, but we're still, there still has not been a Native American on the appellate courts. We're still waiting for that. And then, of course, the Supreme Court, that would be a dream. I'm glad that we finally got our first African American woman on the Supreme Court, but I would love to see the day to have a Native American on the Supreme Court.
In a role like president, there's a lot of education involved, and I guess the constituency would be both the attorneys who are members, but also to the general public. Mm-hmm. And how important does Indian law figure into those 2 areas?
The ABA does a significant amount on Indian law. We have a committed group of people who've worked on things. One of the things we do at the ABA is we have a House of Delegates that passes policy, and once it's adopted by the House, then the ABA can lobby on those issues. And so in the past few years, we've actually adopted policy on quite a few issues, including violence against women and the tribal jurisdiction provisions, missing, murdered Indigenous women, funding for the Indian Health Service, voting rights for Native Americans, support for tribal courts. And so there's been quite a lot, and we have weighed in Congress on all those issues.
One of the things that's happened in a number of states is to put Indian law on the bar exam. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you see expanding?
Yeah, when I was also previously president of the National Native American Bar Association, and that was one of the projects of the National Native American Bar Association. And I think it is very important, particularly in states where there's greater populations of Native Americans in that state, to have Indian law in the bar. But also that also funnels down to law schools as well, because if Indian law is not on the bar exam, then some of the schools, they may only offer Indian law one quarter, one semester, not the whole year. So, but it is an important area. I mean, we saw just last week the Supreme Court issued a decision on Indian law, because usually in every term there's usually one Indian law case every term in the Supreme Court.
I want to ask you about diversity and inclusion. And if you visit any law school these days, and I have recently, the number of law students who are female is significantly higher than the number of males. Does that now start to factor into partnerships and other promotion opportunities? Or are we still seeing a gulf there?
No, sadly, no. Women now make up, like as you noted, over 50% of law school classes, but we still see in terms of partnerships and law firms that women are only still hovering around the 19-20%. And even in the last 30, 40 years, it's only gone up incrementally each year. I mean, it's going in the right direction, but it's going so slowly. I mean, we have had women in law school classes for 50 years, and we don't see it translate into law school partnerships. I mean, we're starting to see more women general counsels of corporations, more people of color, but it's still very slow.
When you look at the history of the country, there's kind of a cycle of support for legal systems and then an unraveling of that. And it kind of is a long history. You see that now with folks worried about the court and different opinions of the court. How do you get people thinking about the rule of law?
It is a lot of education, and I think it starts when children are younger, learning about civics, learning about our system of government, the three branches of the federal government, the relationship of the federal government to the states, just even learning about the presidency. I mean, I think it starts young. So many people are not aware of civics. They don't teach it a lot anymore. And it's just education for adults as well, I think goes a long way. And the ABA actually, we do have a public education division, and we sponsor Law Day and every year to help that in the schools.
One of the things I've always liked to watch is law students doing moot courts and how much intensity there is in that process. I think that's the kind of thing where the public sees it, then it changes your perception, because the amount of preparation and the amount of thought that goes into it's pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, one of the things, I've been involved in bar associations for a long time, and the Chicago Bar Association has a program partnering with the Girl Scouts where the girls are able to do trial advocacy. So it is very important.
Just want to conclude with what makes you most hopeful about the legal profession.
I think the young people I meet who are going to law school and just the enthusiasm and passion they have, it always buoys my heart and gives me hope for the future.
Well, thank you for joining us.